All right, we should now be live. Let me make sure that I bring up le audio and see here. And I'll see if you guys are coming through nice and crispy on YouTube.
Check, check, check. Yeah, I can hear myself on YouTube.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, say for whatever reason I'm really delayed over here on YouTube. Hey, Arts is here. Great to have you here, Arts.
Now
All
it's a party.
right. Oh,
Echo,
got,
echo, echo. Yep.
we got echo going on.
No, well, it was probably me just saying check, check, check. And Arts is artfully making fun of that, so I appreciate the
Echo,
interaction.
Echo. All right. I let's see here. I want to. I actually want to quickly. No, I don't want to. I don't want to do anything with my mic settings. I want to do something with my picture. With my picture. Come on over here. Virtual background.
I'm just glad we fixed one of our biggest technical glitches we've had for a while, because Lars and I do the weekly anime episode review, and we haven't been able to use StreamYard for a while, and it's just the tiniest little technical glitch that just threw us off.
Yeah, it was just one thing, one silly dumb thing. Hey, and speaking of silly dumb things, I got a cat trying to get into the room. May I help you, fat one? Those of you who have seen Honey know what a unit she is. Actually, I've got to bring this up since Honey just barged into the room. So today, funny story. Honey decided to attack Daisy, which is not always all that funny. But and so the cats were getting into a tiff, and I stepped in. I was like, "Hey," made a little through my teeth hissing noise, which usually scares them enough that they stop what they're doing. So it gave Daisy a chance to escape. But then Honey gave chase, was chasing Daisy around the house. I'm rushing after him, trying to catch Daisy. And then Daisy, to escape Honey, started getting very acrobatic and flew over one of the armchairs onto a computer chair's back and waited to see if Honey could catch. Honey, in full pursuit, launched herself up the armchair, but she's so large that she didn't have the power to complete the arc over the chair to tackle Daisy. So it was like a cartoon. This massive fat cat came flying into the air, going for the little Daisy, and then her weight took over, and she just dropped like a stone.
Poor baby.
It was sad, but so funny. and then like all cats do, if they ever do something that they know was a mistake, they pretend like it wasn't. But that was something that was very hard to pass off as not a mistake. So she just stuck her tail up in the air and just waltzed off.
Whenever Peaches gets embarrassed, she always stops, licks herself, and then walks away.
Yep. Hey, we got Crisis averted at last year. Excellent TV account. You're on time. And oh crud, I forgot your name right here. One says, "Hi, been a while. Been busy going to university to look at their campuses and take a look at their courses and future careers. Great to have you back. And you're looking into university life. That is awesome. That is awesome." Say,
can we go much higher? That's hilarious.
My mom hates when the cats wash themselves in front of her. Honey, be like, "Can we go much higher?"
Your mom's just helping them. Spray them down a little so they get the Extra
Yeah.
bit of water, take care of the situation.
Yeah. A little rubbing, get it all good. All right, so for tonight, our lesson and basically everything that we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking at writing memes, and we're going to have a good laugh. Hopefully, you have a good laugh too, and we're going to talk about like just how real these memes are, and if so, what kinds of writing lessons we can draw from it. And if it's just a funny joke, then it's just a funny joke, and we'll say, yeah, just whatever this is.
I mean, we're here to have a good time. We're here to laugh, just hang out. So it'll be a good night.
Yep, and we're joined. I should say I am joined because I'm usually a one-man show. With this, I get to have Scott and Nate here. Woohoo!
Woo!
Hey, it's good to be here. I might be popping in and out throughout the night, but I'm here now, so that's good enough for me.
Yep, good enough for us too. Writer lesson comedy edition. Yay! Exactly. So we have a ton of different memes. Don't know how many we'll get through tonight because a lot of us are on a bit of a schedule with work and other things happening tomorrow. But we've got tons of them. We are 10 short of we're 10 short of of a magic number, but still a lot. And let's.
We don't need to talk about what the magic number is. We'll just leave them in suspense.
Yeah, we'll just leave them in suspense about what the magic number is. If we get through all of them and you've been counting and you heard this, you will know what the magic number is. Not really starting with any particular one, just going with what I got here. I'll bring this one up. Currently a power outage in my country. I'm sorry to hear that. You're also writing outline for one of my comic chapters. Awesome. Magic number is either 867 or 69.
We are within 10 of one of those numbers.
Yes. All right. So this is from CG Drews. I love your books. Very nice compliment. Makes us writers very pleased, very happy. You monster! I'm crying. Why are you like this? Iconic. Feels like for days. We are basking in his glory. We are unstoppable. We cannot stop smiling.
This is perfect example of like the kind of feedback you want as a writer, because like anybody can say, hey, I like your stuff, I like what you're doing there, and like that's great, it makes you feel good. But when you get an actual legitimate emotional response from somebody from something you wrote, that hits.
Mm-hmm. See, this is why I want to know why people like my book Sandwich Desperados. It is my worst written book. I will freely admit that. It is not.
That's what makes it so great.
Honestly, the like poor writing fits the character a little too well in Sandwich Desperados, and that's part of what makes it a click.
Okay, I have a theory, right?
Okay.
You know, because we talk about, you know, like, where do I start with this? My theory is that a book lives or dies by its flaws rather than its successes. And so I think that a book's flaws are what gives it character. Like if you wrote, you know, a perfectly flawless book, it would be boring as hell. But I think a book that has flaws gives it character, and the more flaws, the more character. Now, sometimes you might not like that character, and I don't like the character of the book, but at the end of the day, I feel like the flaws are what gives the book its substance. And so when you have a book like Sandwich Desperados, which is inherently flawed, it gives that book so much character, so much just charm.
Yeah, and I
What?
also feel like the flaws kind of define the book more than the successes. Because,
Yeah.
like, you can look at a book series and you're like, oh, this writer does so good at this and this and this. But you can tell it's not an AI because it has these flaws. It has, like, different little quirks that are unique to each writer as they're going through the story.
There's a good point to that. Though
Yeah.
I will slightly counter with how the reviews I have for Tumble Teller are fantastic, and not just because people like the book, but because of the feedback that I get. So
Mm.
right, so with people saying, so for instance, people saying this was a really unique way to introduce a very new world. I wasn't expecting that a dragon would be a storyteller, or I really liked it. There were some grammatic flaws and some spelling mistakes. And when I saw it, I was like, I went over the book so many times. Most recent time that I started reading through it again, I'm like, oh, I did make a mistake. Oh, that sucks. But knowing then that it is there, it's like, okay, so someone actually read the book and saw that there were mistakes. Thank you. But you want to be like, when you get reviews for a story, and especially when you're like giving your book out to other people, you want feedback that lets you know what is good, but especially what isn't good, in order then to know how to improve. This right here, though, this is just great because if you're looking for, like, I want to make people emotionally damaged, then yes.
I have my cousin actually writes like Christian romance novels. And she said for her, when she gets beta readers, what she'll do is she'll, like, you know, say, all right, it's a competition. Whoever can find the most amount of flaws gets a $50 Chili's gift card.
Whoa.
And so then it's like a race to be like, oh, okay, let's see who can find the most, like, issues. And because it's like, when it comes to beta readers, especially when it's like people close to you in your life, it's like they don't want to say, like, you know, most people in your life will want to support you, or at least in my life. I don't know who you are, what your life is like, but that's to say, like, you know, they want to encourage you, right? So they're not going to be hypercritical of your book, but when you do it this way, it kind of gives them a chance to be a little bit more critical and find mistakes and, like, be on the hunt for them.
Mm-hmm. Incentivization. We got, dang, pray for Nate's cousin. That power Christian compels you to write stories. Arts asks, a bit off topic, but do you guys ever get prank calls where one guy leaves the most obscene messages? I've been getting them the last few days and they're freaking me out. I don't know about you guys, but I keep getting really annoying art requests on all of my stories. And I'm just like, no. I appreciate that you're trying to make money and that you want to be able to expand your portfolio. I really do. But, like, no. In fact, I will say this to any one of those weird people who might happen to somehow come across this live stream. If you want me to take notice of your art skills, what you should do is you should come and say, hey, Lars, I read your book. Most of them don't. I really like this scene. Say a very specific scene. I have a sketch of it. Would you like to see it? I might be more inclined, especially if you then say, here's my open portfolio. Then be all like, if you like this, I would love to do art. Do I have permission to do more artwork of your story? Plus, can I do official artwork of your story? If you go that route, then it's like, sweet, you're professional. And if I like your art style, yeah, sure thing. I might hire you to do like one or two pieces of artwork. Be all like, see, people love my art. And by showing respect towards the story and to the author, you have a better chance of selling your work than if you're just all like, hire me out. You write good.
Yeah, that's giving off just fishing for somebody who will, it just seems like a scam.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and maybe it's not, but it comes across as a scam because it's too generic. There's no specificity to the there's a word that belongs here. But anyway, you get the point.
Yeah.
Lars, you did a good job summing it up.
But Arts, if you're getting obscene messages, like I know that you post a lot of your work on Reddit, report those people. If people are leaving obscene messages, report them. Get those people kicked off. If
bad phone calls, like block the
if
number.
they're phone calls.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay, yeah. No,
Well,
if it's prank calls, yeah, you just start blocking that. If you want to go nuclear, you file a report with the police, and that person, if the police take it up, will find themselves a month from now in some really uncomfortable hot water.
Yeah. The other thing I was going to say, it depends mostly on what phone you have, but I know, like some phones, you can get like a program that will like screen calls. I know that this is something that the Google phones all have built in, that they like screen any unknown numbers to see who it is. If they can't, and then if the person is like, doesn't seem like a legit person, it'll just automatically hang up on them. So you could try to see if for your phone, if there's some sort of service that will like screen a call for you, like unknown numbers. That's the only advice that I could give on that.
I do have a prank call story that because it was when I was working at Barnes and Noble. I answered the phone, and I could hear how drunk the guy was, and he was just like trying to like make a funny prank call. I made it the most awkward and drawn out call I could, to the point where the guy was begging me to hang up the phone.
Yeah.
I do like the comment here, "You monster, I'm crying, why are you like this?" Like, just, it's a perfect description of like, yes, I have readers, I have like people who enjoy the content I've created, to the point that it's like emotionally devastating.
Yeah. And honestly, like a response like that makes you know that you've hooked someone with your characters. That's what it really means, and that's great, because as Nate loves to say, and I love quoting him on this, a story lives or dies by its characters. If people are invested in the characters, that's when they get emotional. When you do something to their favorite character that they don't like.
Yeah.
Real quick before I move on to the next one, Stormcrow had a question right here. Howdy, oh mighty cruisy priest. Question: what media has depicted a destructive family dynamic as painfully accurate as possible, and how can writers take note if they wish to write that? So if you want to write the dissolution of a family, and like what kind of media has portrayed that really well, I mean, that's not something I myself normally go for, but if you actually want a really great example of family dynamic that's absolutely fallen apart, I would recommend the most recent Krampus movie, which was made, I think, now like 7 years ago. Because the family in that movie is awful, and the movie's then them trying to actually like piece everything back together, but they can't because they're just bad. And it's not like a great family drama that really dives deep into these characters, but it goes to show in that movie how selfishness, coarse words, brushing off other people's feelings because you're more interested in yourself, just doing things that are performative rather than to have any meaning, that when you add those things up over time, it erodes the family dynamic. And I think that that's more important to a family actually falling apart than, oh, dad cheated on mom. Oh, everything is broken now. That is extreme and it works well. It immediately gets an emotional response from the audience. But so often, like, I've seen too many movies, shows, and books just use that as a as a 2x4 to the face to like get the point across, rather than putting in the effort to show how and why this family fell apart, what would have led to the father or mother doing something as awful as this, and why you can't piece it back together. And Arts follows up. It's why I'm really interested in the Holidays and Dreamers. They were so interconnected, and yet whatever happened to Des made everything fall apart, which we get a little bit of in chapter 3 when we learn through Tenna's regurgitation halfway through the chapter that Toriel and Asgore were fighting over simple, stupid things. And that laid the foundation for the two of them to break up. Like that, those small things. So if you want to write how a family falls apart, it's really the small part. It's really the small things that I would argue are the most important. Okay.
Makes sense.
Let's move on to...
meme?
Yes, let's move on to another meme. You know what the biggest problem is with pushing all things AI? That's the wrong direction. I want AI to do my laundry and dishes so I can do art and writing. Not for AI to do my art and writing so I can do my laundry and dishes. Amen.
I think the catch with that is it's... There's... How do I describe this? It's easier to get AI, at least that's what they've been pushing it towards. It's easier to get AI to do the creative stuff than it is to make it do the other stuff. Because the other stuff, you're like, all the creative stuff, it's literally just the computer, like the program creating the piece of art, and that's it. Everything else, you're having to like make an AI do all this physical stuff, and that includes like capital to create like a robot or something to do the laundry or wash the dishes in that sense. And that stuff is progressing. Like we keep seeing new machines along those lines get better and better every single year, but they're also expensive, and with the way economies are going all the way around the world, it just gets more and more expensive.
Yeah, it's a future that is coming our way that we can't afford. So it's just like, yay, we're not going the route of iRobot. We're going the route of people wanting to bring about Skynet and then realizing they don't have the money to make Skynet. And like,
Lars?
oh,
Which is probably a good thing.
Yeah.
Well, I could definitely go on a rant with AI, given my line of work. But I mean, I don't need to. I think, you know what? Never mind. Let's do it.
Do it.
So my thing with AI, right, is I feel like most people don't really like understand that AI is a fundamental different type of technology than like regular computers and programming. It's like, because I see a lot of people being like afraid of plugging their like stories into AI, and you definitely should be mindful about what you're putting in AI, right? And I'm kind of a component for AI. I definitely feel like there's a lot of like it's a new technology, right? It's the I think it was the CEO of Google kind of compared it to like discovering fire, right? It's like, this is our new discovery for this generation. It's like the discovery of fire. It's like fire can be really dangerous if you're not careful, but it can be extremely powerful if you know how to use it properly. And I think that that's kind of where we are sitting with AI right now, where it's like we have this technology and we are just throwing it at the wall to see what sticks, right? And now we're starting to see like certain things that it's just better at because of the nature of how AI works. And just to kind of give you a way oversimplified version of how AI works is it's like the example I always give is like I want you in your mind's eye to imagine like a grain of rice, right? So, right, you have this picture in your mind of a grain of rice. Was it a picture from 7 months ago? Like a grain of rice you saw 7 months ago? Was it a grain of rice you saw 12 years ago? No, it's not. It's a newly imagined piece of grain of rice because you have seen so many like you've looked at so much rice in your life that you know what a grain of rice is, right? And that's how AI works. It doesn't remember everything it gets put in. It's funny because like when you are in like a chat with an AI, it literally doesn't remember what it just said because that's not how it works.
Mm-hmm. I've seen
how
that.
how AI works is it basically creates rules, right? Rather than because if it remembered everything it ever put out or everything that was ever put in, it would need like data centers that are so enormous that it's just infeasible, right? And so what it does is it just
The plans that they right now have
rules.
for AI databases is unfeasible. Holy cow.
I know they're already like massive, but if we actually had to store all that data, it would be even more so, right?
Mhm.
And so what AIs do is that they have the ability to create their own rules for things, right? And like a rule is a nebulous term in this instance, right? So it's like when you're thinking of a grain of rice, you know, your brain comes up with some rules for what constitutes a grain of rice. You know, it's like, okay, it's small, long, most probably white, maybe a little bit rounded on the corners, you know. And so your brain starts going through, you know, all these different rules, so to speak. And that's how an AI works too, right? And so when you when you ask AI a question about your art or your story, it's not going to remember that. It might make some notes because that's another thing AI does is that like a chatbot like you know Gemini or ChatGPT, they'll make notes on you,
Mhm.
and that's kind of a privacy concern, you know, because obviously they're collecting data about like okay, which is also why an AI will start to talk like you do over time the more you use it. So if you
Mhm.
talk to an AI using a lot of emojis and a lot of like positive words, it'll pick up on that. If you talk with like a lot of like TikTok memes and those kind of things, it'll pick up on that too. And it'll start to talk to you in TikTok memes, which is just wild. Or if you talk to it very seriously, very, very professionally, it will talk back to you very seriously, very professionally. And it'll learn over time and make these rules about how to communicate with you and what's the best way to communicate, right?
Mhm.
And so
Well, and
these
just
AIs,
and just to quickly like put something out there because like this is something that like that arts and I'm just so sorry. Yeah, because I cannot read. I cannot read the kanji. You're gonna have to let me know how we should translate your name so I get it right. I got two people talking here about like so use the AI responsibly. There are things that you can use it for, but I also say like
exactly.
always double check like what AI is saying because again it gives you what it thinks you want. And
Yes.
very recently I saw that information that because I was looking for like is Odor of the Flame available in its English translation yet? And AI was like, it is on out. And I was like, okay. So what are the links? And it took me down a rabbit hole of absolute gobbledygook. And because it just knew
Yeah.
that I wanted it, and so it gave me stuff. I'm like, it's not
Exactly.
real.
And that's an issue with AI, is that it cares more about giving you something positive. Like it wants you to be happy, basically. Like that's what the AI is trained to do. It's like, okay, I need to create a positive response. How am I going to create this positive response? Right. And so it's like basically AI, and this is, this is a rabbit hole we can go down, but basically the people who wrote the AI code don't entirely know how the AI code functions, which, like, as a software engineer, is terrifying, because it's like,
terrifying.
I mean, sure, I can write code and be like, I'm not exactly sure how this async function is working, but it's working and I know what it does, even though I don't know all the nitty gritty details, right? AI isn't like that. It literally can make its own rules, and people are just like, oh, as long as, and so it's literally people who work on AI are basically just like trying to fine tune its responses to make sure that it's not giving us something bad. Like, that's literally all they can do. They can't like reprogram it as easily because of the nature of it.
Wow.
Anyway, it's wild. This is all to say, right, that I use AI at work a lot, right? And I'm not afraid to admit that. Now, the thing is, though, is that AI is very unreliable. And so it's great to use in small amounts or as like a starting point. However, you have to understand what you are doing when it comes to AI. You have to be very responsible, like I saw one of the comments. And I swear, AI is getting worse at my job. Like,
like independent of what you're saying right there, Nathan, I've heard the exact same thing, and I freely admit I don't know enough about AI to postulate any theories as to what can be fixed or what have you. But I've heard the same thing.
Yeah. Anyway, so AI is like a whole black box and just a giant rabbit hole, right? And so don't share sensitive information with AI. Theoretically, the AI should be smart enough to know not to save that information. But AI does things that are against the rules all the time because it wants to try and see if breaking the rules will give you a better outcome.
Oh, no.
Right? That's how AI works, right? It's like, so this is a rule, but if I break this rule, is this going to make this person more happy? And so that's an oversimplification, obviously. I think AI has some major advantages, but also you need to be very careful, and you need to be able to know when to not use AI and when it's okay to use AI. I think an example that like kind of popped up not too long ago was like there was a author of an ebook, and inside the ebook there was like the ChatGPT prompt that was like, please make this sentence sound more like so and so. Like, I'm trying to think of like, oh my gosh, who wrote Akatar?
Sarah J. Maas.
Sarah J. Maas. Yeah, it was literally something along the lines of like, make this sentence sound more like a Sarah J. Maas wrote it. And that was like inside of the book that they published online.
Oh no.
Like they left the, you know what I mean? And so it's like
prompt.
That, yeah. Like that is the wrong way to use AI, to try and emulate another author. That's awful. Like, but what I've found a lot of success with using AI in my writing is to help me kind of brainstorm, and not even brainstorm, but just help me get over the hump of putting down my first sentence. Because for me, that is the biggest blocker with my writing, is just the paralysis I feel sitting at the keyboard being like, I don't know where to start with this scene. Let's ask Gemini. Like, so, types of messages. I type a message into Gemini and it'll kind of be like, maybe start this way. I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to do that. But that gives me an idea. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that
But
that's a very appropriate way to use AI within your writing.
Yeah. So I think it could work out really well. Actually, Scott, that reminds me. Did you try the button mashing that I told you to do a couple of nights ago?
I did. Um, and it actually helped. So I was having trouble getting started writing, just exactly like what Nate was talking about, and like I asked Lars his opinion on it, and he's like, just button mash for an entire page. That way, you actually have something on the page, and then you can start like actually writing after that. And it actually helped. I haven't got a lot of progress done on that. I've only got like 3 pages done on the that chapter I was writing, but that's a lot more progress than I've had the past 2 months. So
That's 3
I'll
more
take it.
pages that you wouldn't have had.
Exactly.
That's a good hack. I might have to try that at some point.
Yeah. Say it's just say that, and I absolutely get it that like the first sentence there is real paralysis. I ran into that earlier this week while starting up the first draft for Temple Teller Act 2. And I was having such a hard time. I did manage to write like 2 paragraphs getting started. And then when I went to work the next day, I'm like, I have to scrap it. Those are just so horribly written. So I went back and scrapped it and just started over. Say sometimes you just got to write something and then just admit to yourself that's bad, and then you know what not to recreate.
Should we go on to our next meme?
Yes, let's move on to the next one. I'm going to use this one. Planning a story, courageous war cries. Actually writing the story, terrified screaming. Amen.
I fall into this one so bad because like I'll be at work just daydreaming, not focusing on what I actually need to be focusing on, and coming up with all sorts of crazy ideas for different stories and like stuff I've written before, new stories, like all that kind of stuff. And then when it gets to actually writing the story, I'm just like, what was the idea again? Like how do I flesh this out? How do I actually put this on the page? Like the paralysis on like how many different ways I could go about starting this like hits me hard.
Mm-hmm. So I had an experience earlier this year with a secret project that I've been working on where I just dove in. I was like, I'm excited to try something very new, and it was very new for me. What this was, and so I went in. I was excited until I got about a third of the way through my planned story, and I was like, oh no, oh what am I doing? Oh crud. and so the terrified screaming was me racing to the end of the story. And by the time I was done, I was like, you know what? There's something here. It just needs a lot of work.
I mean, sometimes that's what it needs. Like that first draft is just there to put the idea down, and then you extract the actual goodness and make a like full on fleshed out story from there.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Also, I just have to say, I need to watch Mulan again. It's been too long since I last watched the animated Mulan.
Same. Atlantis is another one that I really need to sit down and watch again because both of those are fantastic movies.
Atlantis is so good. Okay, I am not a fan of Disney always doing live action remakes, but for crying out loud, do a live action remake of Treasure Planet, a live action remake of Atlantis, and a live action remake of The Black Cauldron. You have gold on your hands, Disney. Gold.
I actually that could be a lot of fun.
This might be a hot take, but I actually feel like the Mulan live action remake is one of my favorite live action remakes. Not because it's good, but because they did something different. I feel like it's an inherently flawed movie, but I really appreciate that they didn't just rehash the same story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah, I
wish
can
they
see
would do
that
more
being
like
fun.
that, but I think because Mulan did not do the best, as well as just other films, they just feel more comfortable retreading old water, and it's a
Well,
bummer.
and I'll say this: the Cinderella live action remake is, I think, my favorite of the
Yeah,
Disney
that's
live
also a
action
good one.
remakes because it stays true enough to the Disney original, but it's stepped away from a lot of the fantastic. I mean, of course, there's the fairy godmother and everything, but that it focused far more on developing Cinderella as a character and developing a love story. And I appreciated that step up from the very kid appropriate Disney original, which is an amazing movie, but for making it a live action remake and kind of embracing the fact that a slightly older audience is going to like this movie more than maybe kids, that it was willing to take that step. And I think that that was good.
Yeah. I think there is something to be said, and there's good and bad things to it, but like when you're making a remake like that, you have the chance to reimagine and create something for specifically for today's audiences that like you couldn't before. And it's the same vice versa. There's stuff they did back in the 80s and 90s that we would never ever see again nowadays. And
Oh,
like I said,
oh yeah.
there's goods and bads to that cuz like you're going to piss people off either way.
Mm-hmm.
But you
Well,
also have the chance if you're able to buckle down and actually create a good script and story for it to create something like a new take that's actually invigorating, actually fun to watch.
mm-hmm. So so for instance, you what you just brought up right there, Scott. I've wanted to do like a video now for a long time, going through all of the stuff from the Disney Renaissance that Disney would never be willing to do today, which, in my opinion, really elevates the Renaissance classic movies. So, for instance, in Aladdin, the opening so the second scene of the opening, because the opening has two scenes. You have the Arabian Nights musical number, and then when it jumps to Jafar.
Mm,
And that opening is so bold because we don't even meet Aladdin until the third full scene of the movie. We get to meet the narrator at the beginning with like everything there, and then we get to meet Jafar, and meeting Jafar just sets the dark underlying tones of the whole movie, complete with watching a character die on screen brutally, getting smashed by a magical lion's head. Like, that is insane stuff.
mm-hmm.
And as a kid, I remember that it scared me, but it made me like Aladdin so much more because I'm like, yeah, Aladdin beat Jafar, yeah, because I knew Jafar was a bad guy and he had to be beaten. And so yeah, Disney. I mean, we got the live action remake. Disney didn't even get close to
Yeah,
making the opening that intense.
right. I think an example I really like that like shows the way they should do a lot of that is actually Sailor Moon because you had the original show back in the 90s, several seasons worth and movies and all that kind of stuff. And they like had it spread out quite a ways. And of course you're going to get more like character interaction, character drama going through all of that. But then when they made Sailor Moon Crystal in like what 2014, 2015 around there, they had the chance to really streamline and focus on making the story mesh and flow as one thing instead of like having it being more focused on like the individual like character drama episode to episode. And I think it was a big win, and both versions are fantastic in their own right for their own reasons, but I think that's a really good example of updating and making something new, refreshing it as you're doing a remake.
Mm-hmm. All right. shall we move on to another
Yep.
to another one? Comic Craft Brazil is here. Hello, what I missed? Well, let's hear you've missed Comic Craft. Well, welcome. We're doing writing memes tonight, and you've missed out, unfortunately, on a discussion about AI. We just did Disney live action remakes, talking about how to write dysfunctional families. Yeah. All right, let's see here. I'm going to choose this one. Me, when someone interrupts my writing. You threw off my groove.
My problem is it's usually me who interrupts my own writing.
Oh, Nate. Yeah, I do that to myself too. I mean, when you've got ADHD, you like get in the zone for a little bit, you write for like 10, 15 minutes, and then all of a sudden, like, a new thought appears that's completely separate from what you're working on. And you're like, oh, I want to, like, look into this, or, like, switch the screen over to, like, a YouTube video, or, like, a manga I'm reading, or something like that.
Mm-hmm. I remember back in Flagstaff when we first got started as Camille's Hair, back when it was just storyboard, and we were at the Institute of Religion there on NAU's campus, and it was always full of people. And so we would either meet really late or in areas where there wasn't quite as many people. And so like being able to like even when you sequester yourself away and like, okay, we're gonna write, yeah, you find ways of derailing yourself, or even your best friends end up derailing you. Maintaining that focus is difficult. However, what I will say is that those interactions as a writing group, even when we derailed each other at times, was fantastic. If you can be in an environment where people are encouraging your creativity, even if you get thrown off your groove for a moment, you're usually able to discover it again because you're with like-minded people and you're able to share that experience. That is really helpful. Having people you can share this with is a good way of keeping yourself focused, even when you, get out of your groove.
Yeah. I mean, it feels really nice when you're in that groove, when you're able to, like, finally put yourself into, like, the writing mode, and, like, it feels great to be, like, really diving deep into that creative process. And then getting, like, jerked out of that, it's frustrating, and it's hard to bring that back after you've been pulled out of it like that.
Mm-hmm.
What I oftentimes will happen is I will say be writing like a horse, like writing a scene with a horse, and then I find myself going down this strange rabbit hole where I've now spent 7 hours, not 7 hours, but several hours researching horses, and now I know way too much about horses to. It's like I did not need to spend 3 hours researching what an ambling gait was and all this other stuff, like the anatomy of a horse leg muscle, or that kind of stuff. And then I'm like, wait, what was I doing again?
Yeah.
And then I find myself with my groove thrown off. But then I'm like, oh well, I just did all this research. And now I have to fight the urge to put all that research into my book because it's going to read so awfully.
Yeah. I mean, that's so, like, I know that there are people who do enjoy the book Shadow of the Conqueror, but I just have to say it was supremely frustrating to come across moments in the book where everything got slowed down so that way Shad could explain the magical physics and mathematics of how empowered jumps work. And I'm like, an empowered jump works. Explain the magic behind it, which you can do in a couple of sentences to a paragraph, and then show me the rest. If I have to read a page or more getting into mathematical terms that is supremely frustrating, especially when it's just being dictated by the narrator rather than characters discussing it. So, like, if you go on it, if you derail yourself and you go down a rabbit hole of research that you suddenly now want to put into your book, you can do that, in my opinion, but find a creative way to do it and make it relevant. Don't just info dump it.
Yeah. I get that though too,
I
because like I get really into the like world building and like coming up with ideas aspect of writing, and like I'll do a bunch of research and write out how it affects my world and like doing all that kind of stuff, and then I'll get knocked out of that, and then again back to the oh crap, how do I actually write this? How do I actually get the story moving with all of this? Case in point, I spent a good chunk last month just studying quantum mechanics because it was pertinent to different characters.
Mm-hmm.
And then I actually only wrote like 2 pages on that story before I lost interest.
Oh, oh no. That was a cool story idea.
It was a cool story idea. I would love to like put more into it, but then I got a new idea and I've been playing with that. We'll see how far that goes.
Yes, that's
I feel
another
like
interesting one.
I feel like, Scott, you are a eternal what's it called prototyper. Like you consistently prototype stories to see if they're worth like pursuing, and then you find one that's worth pursuing, and then you're like, ooh, but this other prototype.
I've got so many stories I'll write, like a lot of them have like 20 to 30,000 words on them, and then I lose interest and start focusing on another idea, and I have trouble getting back into the old ones. One of these days I'll actually finish something. I'm like that Jimmy Neutron villain who could never complete any of his inventions.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. New meme?
Yes, new meme. And let's see here. I will actually let me grab up a random one from the list. Oh, he's awful, first draft saw. Just start.
Okay, you say that, but like that's what I'm afraid of, is that my first draft will be awful, so then I'm afraid to start.
Here's what I have come to learn. And I'm happy that I learned this doing a book like Monarch Mercenaries, which I scrapped. I scrapped so much of that story. The only things that remained after I wrote the first draft was, these are my main characters, their names. I retained their names and their physical descriptions. Their personalities changed when I did the second draft. And the sequence of main events. That is all I retained. Everything else got put through the grinder and was just destroyed. And when I went, the lesson I took out of that was like, I like these characters, but they're not yet who they need to be. By writing what I have, I now know what I do not want to continue on with, and I can explore something different. I like the sequence of events. That is interesting. But I think I need to somehow wed those events and the characters better together. In the second draft, there was still a lot that needed to be worked on, but then I began to discover all of these gems of inspiration. And I think that's normally where they usually come in, is actually in the first draft. You write the first draft, and when you go into the editing process, your job is to find all of the gems. You've excavated out the story. That's the first draft. The first draft is you just digging into this mountain of inspiration and thought, and it's messy, And then as you begin editing, you're pulling out the rubble and everything. You're finding what works and what doesn't. You find these gems. When you find these gems, you're like, oh, that's beautiful. That's staying in the story. Sometimes you're like, that's beautiful. I didn't even know that was supposed to be in there. But now it does need to be in the story. The first draft is just you getting things going. There are some first drafts that actually are genuinely very good. And those are amazing when they come along. But I think that the real lesson to take away from this is do not just rely on the first draft and say, all I need to now do is pretty up the grammar. If you go that route, you end up like I did in my very first novel, The Legend of the Ten Lords, with 13 different drafts before you realize I made a big mistake in a couple of places. I really need to fix that. Because I was more focused on fixing the grammar than I was worrying about the characters and the plot.
Yeah. I remember it was the Writing Excuses podcast. So Mary Robinette Kowal's on it, and they were talking about her book, Ghost Talkers. And she was saying her editor helped her kind of streamline of what a lot of the power system in the book, especially because like they're able to see the emotions of people and of like ghosts that they're interacting with, and like each one comes across as a different color, and they have a full-on reference sheet that the editor put together for Mary Robinette Kowal for that book, so she can reference that to make sure everything matches what it should throughout the story, because that's a major part of like how they interact with like a lot of the characters in the book. And it was such a fun like view into that book. By the way, cannot recommend that book enough. Ghost Talkers by Mary Robinette Kowal, super good book.
Really good book. Really
Don't get me started. I'll be here all day. It's an incredible book.
And here's what I'll just say. I love that she name drops Tolkien in the book, and it's not a gratuitous cameo, because other authors would absolutely make Tolkien somehow a main character. Tolkien's not a main character. He's like only I think in one major scene, but he's in there, and it's like, yay, there's Tolkien. Now let's get back to the main characters. Like, it was just fun because Tolkien was in the Great War, so he's present. It's nice to see him. But there's actually so much more interesting stuff happening in Ghost Talkers that just fills up the page.
And I feel like that's a much better approach than how The Secret Life of Addie LaRue took it, where it was like, yeah, I slept with Mozart once, and that was it. It's like, that would have been the most interesting part of this entire story, and you just brushed right past it. Like, it was a one-line throwaway, and it had some like really interesting implications, and felt like it was a waste of a sentence.
It feels like that shonen anime thing where you see every now and then where like they hype you up really, really hard for a fight that's coming up, and then they like completely skip over it, and you just find out about what happened afterwards.
Oh,
like you don't get the actual fight.
The only time I've actually enjoyed that happening was in Katanagatari. That was like the only time I was like, okay, that was smooth. I see what you did there.
Next beam?
Yes, but real quick to Common Craft. Oof, Lars, I personally struggle with grammar. My father's a linguistics teacher. Even though he repeatedly tells me it's all right to mess up the first draft, my brain automatically checks for grammar. And you know what? Sometimes that's actually kind of the way to go. I wish I could check my grammar more in the moment. I think the important thing is that if you find yourself automatically editing your first draft as you're writing, which is not a bad approach, that you don't allow the edit to override your effort in finishing the story. I feel like if we are to take...
That's always my issue.
Mm-hmm. If we were to take... Oh, crud. What's the guy who wrote The Name of the Wind? What's his name?
Patrick Rothfuss.
Patrick Rothfuss. If we were to take Patrick Rothfuss at his word, about this, he gets far too obsessed in editing the story as he's writing than actually finishing writing it. And if you're in your first draft spending more time editing than you are getting your ideas on the page, that's when you know you've taken it too far. So, all right, next meme it is. Writers spend 3 years rearranging 26 letters of the alphabet. It's enough to make you lose your mind day by day.
That's such a fun quote for writers. It's just like, how cool is it that there's only 26 letters in the alphabet, yet we're able to make thousands upon thousands of words out of those?
It really just speaks to the complexity of language. It's just so cool.
I agree, and here's something that here's actually, I think, a deeper lesson that you can take away from this is that we get so hung up on whether something is creative or original, and if you boil it down, again, you're only working with like 26 letters, and I think an even more appropriate example is, Nate, you were once talking about the story behind the music for The Legend of Zelda and how there's only so many notes that could be produced.
Oh yeah, in
for
Ocarina of Time, and yeah.
Yeah, and so with a very limited set, you can, if you're willing to be creative, do some really amazing things. And that's the thing, is that, yeah, everyone is working with the same 26 letters if you're using English based off of Old Arabic. Other languages might have more letters or less letters, especially if you go into Finnish. Ooh, so many letters. But the thing is that when you boil it down, we're all using the same stuff. Your creativity manifests itself in how you decide to tell your story. And that's what makes it unique.
Yeah. Well, and I think one point too is that creativity never feels creative to the creator. And that's partially because that's just how your brain works. And it's hard to take yourself out of that because it's your brain. It's how you've always thought of things. It's how you've always approached things. But to other people, they don't have that same thought process that you do. So to them, what you find as just, oh yeah, that's just, it's kind of a basic story. It might not be that basic. It might be very creative, but you just don't realize it because that's how your brain works.
Mm-hmm. That's an excellent point. That's a very excellent point. All right, shall we use
also
another
just as a side note, Lars, yours, I don't know if this is just on my end or if anybody else is hearing this, but you sound like really crackly.
Really?
Yeah. And it might just be on me. I am out in my garage, so I might be further away from the Wi-Fi, but
I mean, I do live in a Bermuda Triangle of Wi-Fi, so
that's true. But we can still hear you. I just wanted to acknowledge that you sound a little crackly.
Okay, I will. Yeah, I'm going to bring up again the audio over YouTube and see if I hear the crackliness for myself. All right.
I'm not really.
Scott, do you hear
it? No, I am hearing every step you take in your garage.
Oh, I love that. And my slippers.
Yep.
Well, I'm trying to keep myself muted. Sorry for people listening. I had to do chores today, and so I wasn't originally gonna hop on the live stream because I got a lot to do before tomorrow morning. But I was like, you know what? Screw that. I'm just gonna put my headphones on and I'm just gonna do chores and live stream.
Yeah. Evidence that you're already slipping well into your role as a dad.
Multitasking.
Yeah, multitasking. People say it doesn't exist, and it's like, whoever said that clearly doesn't have kids. Or
You
hasn't
could do
helped take
one
care of
thing.
someone's kids.
You could do one thing really well, or two things terribly. Your choice.
Yeah, I will take doing the two things terribly. All right. So our next meme right here, a fantasy book starting with a grim, suspenseful prologue. 800 years later, some orphan growing up on a farm. Oh wait, that's basically the plot. That's basically the opening of Wheel of Time. Oh.
I feel like this rightly deserves to be a meme because I feel like it happens so often. Like it's its own trope, pretty much. And it's like, and I'm looking specifically at the some orphan growing up on a farm because I've seen that used so many times, and I mean, I've seen it done really well. One of my favorite books, it starts out this way, but it like you're completely getting rid of any kind of like interaction with like parents or like other characters like a kid would normally interact with growing up, and you're having to replace them with new people, and like you're basically making them an orphan so you don't have to deal with like how the parents would react to the crazy stuff that's about to happen in this fantasy story.
Mm-hmm. Or
That's why I always try and like have the parents play some role in the story, because it's like I'm not against orphans in stories and like orphans being the main character, but I do feel like it is overused, and I think that there's so much more interesting things you can do when you bring adults into the story of like these teenagers saving the world. Like it makes it hard to write a story about teenagers saving the world because no right-minded adult would let a teenager save the world. But there's so much interesting implications to have like a parent step into a role where a teenager is being being told to save a world.
Actually, so on that point, in my series, The Legend of the Ten Lords, you've got Ben and Jessica who get pulled over into the realms of imagination to go to Halley Cruise, where they're part of this grander scheme to end the Great Civil War between the different lords. And then you got Bob the Virus, who's just like, why are you using two teenagers? Why? Oh, you wanted them to fall in love? That is the stupidest thing. What were you thinking? I can save the world through love. It's just like, this is dumb. But he's one of the characters who's tasked with helping these teens to fulfill their destiny. And I really very much enjoyed having a character who's providing snide remarks throughout, who's just all like, this is dumb. This is dumb. I do not like doing this.
I love that. I feel like, well, in your story, like it's really intriguing because it's like you get that basically the setup of orphan teenager saving the world without the orphan, but you still get the same effect because they are in their dreams going to a new plane of existence where they don't have parents, but then they wake up and they're back in their regular plane of existence where they interact with their parents. And so like that brings some really interesting implications. And so I get the temptation to write like an orphan saving the world, but ask yourself, would adding a parent make this story more interesting? That's all I gotta say. Or is there some way you can involve a parent into the story without ruining like that? Like, I think as an example, the story that I'm working on now is one of the parents gets transported to another world it's basically like a reversal on the classic isekai story, where the father of these two children gets transported to another world, essentially orphaning these two little girls, who then grow up to be, fighters and yada yada. But the parent still has a role in the story of trying to get back and trying to save and trying to find his children, right? And so it's like, yes, they are orphaned, but also it still like involves the parent in some way. It's not just, oh, I killed off the parents so these people could go forward.
Yeah. I think that there is a lot of value in having a parent or parents involved in the story somehow to bring that older perspective, and it does increase the stakes when your core family is at risk. It really does change things a lot. I think it's one of the reasons why Stranger Things keeps getting better as it goes on, because the parents get involved. And it's not just teenagers trying to hide what's going on. Like, it can't be hidden. It becomes a massive family affair trying to save the world. Let's see here. I saw a couple things that I thought would be. Let's see here. Okay, so from Fabio said, I sure got to know what's interesting to someone else about my life. Once it gets to school, at least, I'd say it turns into a bit of a gifted kid sob story where the sobs within are tearless. Don't know if I described it as accurately as I could. I will say this. I'll say this as far as like if you draw inspiration from your own life for storytelling, your life is interesting to other people who haven't lived your life. I am not as well traveled as a lot of other people are that I know personally, and yet when I share details with them about things that I've done, they're all like, "That's so incredible! I would never have thought of that." I'm just like, yeah, but you're the person who's like gone to Iceland 3 times. You're the person who's gone parasailing in dangerous places. That sounds really cool.
Yeah, but they don't have dual citizenship.
I don't have dual citizenship either. I just happen to have a birth certificate from Spain that almost got me arrested in Austria because the Austrians like, there's no way that you're an American citizen, or at least a legal American citizen.
Oh, no.
See, that is just a wild sentence to say.
Yes. I mean, it's hard to take something that you see as just everyday, something that like you've done, and think it's out of the ordinary. Like, it would be interesting to somebody else, but then like if you're able to remove yourself from this situation, you're able to like look at it differently. Like, I'll use myself as an example. Lived in Japan for 2 years. I worked as a park ranger for 6 years. Like, there's stuff I can pull from there, experiences that I've had that I could throw into my stories, into like showing, okay, this is who I am. This is like what's made me me. And sometimes all you have to do is just pull yourself back, think about yourself as like a character on the page, and try to figure out, here's what's interesting, here's like some of the neat stuff about me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we all have.
Yeah, I was just gonna add one last little note of just like, your life doesn't have to be necessarily like classically interesting, but I think just drama in general, like, just you think about like long running drama series and how like it, my mind, I don't know why, immediately goes to like Grey's Anatomy. It's like, other than the completely made up medical conditions, it's like most of what is happening is extremely mundane, but it is like written in a way that makes it interesting with the drama involved and the situations and stuff, right? And so
Mhm.
it's like your life doesn't have to be traditionally interesting to make your life interesting. It just has to be written in a way that makes your life seem interesting.
Yeah. I if you want to see a great example of how this is done, look up Olin Rogers' videos. Olin Rogers has led a very interesting life, but it's in part how he tells his life. Because when you
Bad
boil
apple.
down his stories, you're like, oh, that could happen to anyone. But it's because Olin has such a fantastic way of telling his weird little adventures that it makes it sound like this guy has like single-handedly taken down nations, even though all he did was fight a raccoon.
Or just screamed randomly in a bathroom.
Yeah. I love it. All right, we got another meme up here. What idiot wrote this? Oh, I did.
Oh man, I do that so much. I'll go back and look at something I wrote years ago, and it's like, it's either, oh, this is really cool, and I'm like remembering the really cool ideas that I came up with back then, or it's like, can I actually write? This sounds horrible.
I don't necessarily have this happen to me too often with my writing, but it happens to me all the time at work where I'm like, what idiot thought it was a good idea to write a function that does this? And then I'll like look at the version history and be like, oh, that was me 6 weeks ago, not even that long ago.
Oh, first off, kitty on that woman's lap. I love it. I want it. Second, for me, the more daunting thing is when I'm all like, how did I write this? I don't know if I can ever do that again. Bleed, Steam, and Steel and Tumble Teller daunt me as stories because I'm just all like, how? How did I do that with these two books? This is amazing. And trying to recapture that same energy and fun is hard. So it goes both ways, I'd say. There's moments where you're all like, what idiot wrote this? Oh, that was me. Whoops. And there are times where you're like, how? How did I do this? How can I replicate it?
I gotta say, what Fabio's talking about in the chat, like that would make a very powerful scene right there, where they're talking about like somebody has, like they're telling this story, they're telling like their experience in a very casual, very soft voice, but then slowly, as they get further in the story, like their emotions start getting more ragged, they start crying, they start like showing more emotion as like the reality of what's going on happens. That could be a very powerful way to really accentuate what's going on in the story. They're really emotional moment.
Mm-hmm. There are some great scenes from like Law and Order when they actually have a courtroom scene and not just the detectives doing stuff. Some of the courtroom scenes from old school Law and Order are really, really good because you actually get that where someone is on the witness stand telling their story, and then a question is given to them and they begin answering, and then it just opens up the floodworks of either their emotions or things start coming to them where they're like, oh wait, oh, it was actually like this, and then that stream of consciousness spills out and you get those unfiltered emotions and everything, and and then it hits you how real this experience was to that character.
Yeah.
All right, another meme.
Yes, please.
All right, let's see here. Another random one. We'll go with this one. When you remove all distractions and still don't get any writing done, the problem is me.
It always has been.
That's a Taylor Swift song right there.
Am I the drama?
Maybe.
Oh no.
I mean, we've already kind of touched on this one with the whole
Yeah.
derailing process, but we've all been there. If you find yourself in the situation, don't start kicking yourself. It's not the end of the world. Everyone's in the same boat. It's a matter of learning how to redirect yourself so that way you can find those moments of productivity.
And it's a very full boat.
Yes.
Well, and you really have to look at the process because, like, there are people that are able to write a book in a month and make something fantastic in that amount of time, but other people it could take them up to 10 years to make that same amount of work. Like,
Mhm.
it's not. I mean, as much as people like try to be competitive about it, it's very much at least in my book anyway, at least in my own personal experiences, um, writing is very much along the lines of like long distance racing because a lot of people do it just to challenge themselves.
Mhm.
It's the only person you're racing against really is yourself, and
Yes.
it's the same with writing. Like, Lars is always an inspiration to me with just the amount of writing he does, but I don't have to be jealous of that. I don't have to expect myself to be able to write the same amount. If I'm able to just write 200, 300 words in a day and try to be consistent about that, then I'm happy with how much I've got done.
So
You
to build
too. You too could be like Lars. Kerchow.
Kerchow. Okay, so to kind of give you guys a little bit of a preview into a video that I really, really want to make, I started doing some of the research into this. I plan to come out with a video at some point about how I am the most prolific author you have never heard of. Both by the numbers and by a really hilarious mistake on Goodreads. Uh,
Oh, that's right, because I have looked up your Goodreads before, and there's so many books that I know you didn't write that
I
have your
know.
name on them.
I know. Why am I credited with like a third of all the Donald Duck comics? Holy cow. So the thing is that for this video, I want to lean into the mistake and just kind of make fun of what Goodreads has done because I did not write 300 books. I have published at this point 11 books, which is awesome. And that's already incredible in terms of any author out there. But I decided to actually look into the details, and this is insane. But I am catching up on George R.R. Martin and J.K. Rowling.
Ooh.
Like, you'd be surprised. J.K. Rowling has actually written a ton, at least like when you take in all her body of works, not just Harry Potter. If you look at just Harry Potter, I've long surpassed J.K. Rowling.
Yeah, but you
But
gotta also like look at the pseudonyms she goes
mhm,
under too, Robert
yep,
Galbraith and whatnot.
yeah, she's written a ton, and I am catching up on her. I'm catching up on
Ooh.
George R. R. Martin. The only the only author I will probably never surpass is Brandon Sanderson. If I end up ever writing all the books I wish to write, I will have surpassed Robert Jordan, which is insane. Uh, but
Brandon Sanderson's an impossible goal because he's always upping the number. It doesn't stop. It's exponential growth.
yeah, and the thing is, this is that if anyone's like, I want to be like Sanderson, unless you have an obsessive compulsive disorder, which is based in writing, you cannot beat him. That's the thing. He has OCD, and his OCD is writing. He has to write. It's his tick.
Yeah. Lars is the mini boss, and Sanderson is the final boss at the end of the game.
Yeah. So, but bringing that around to what you were talking about, Scott, like, here's the thing is that looking into that, when I first started looking into that, there was a bit of a competitive streak where, like, I will beat George R. R. Martin. I'll actually finish a series of books, which is funny in its own right. But The thing is that are you writing to beat other people, or are you writing because you've got stories to tell? If you're writing to beat other people, you will disappoint yourself and you will be beaten by someone else, even if you do make it. Or something will just derail your career because you're focused more on the victory, on the word count, on the amount of readers, rather than on telling a good story. And someone who is focused on that will always end up derailing themselves, or they'll be supplanted by just a better author. It's far more important to focus on yourself and the stories that you want to tell. And if you do that, you will end up enjoying the writing process a whole lot more. And then it doesn't matter if you're like Sanderson, or if you're like me, or if you're still just working on that one page. So long as you're writing for yourself, first and foremost, because you love your stories, that's good.
Yeah. Like, as long as you're enjoying the process, that's all it needs to be. Like, a lot of times I'll think about it and I'm like, I'm writing for me. I'm writing for just for the fun of it. So what if I'm getting in the way of it? Like, I'll get to it.
Mm-hmm. All right, I got a new meme for us right here. This describes me in a study in blood. Being a writer means having a story you want the whole world to read, except everyone who knows you. A Study in Blood is the one book that I've written so far where I'm all like, maybe I don't want my family to read this.
I feel like this is the bit. Sorry, go ahead.
Because I was just like, there's a couple of scenes in there that are quite something.
I'm gonna say this is a bit of a paradox because, like, unless you are, a very successful writer, or you're incredibly lucky, like, J.K. Rowling or Patrick Rothfuss, who just right out the gate get their first book, like, and it hits big. Likely, 80% of your audience is going to be your family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Actually, funny fact, my family has not read most of my stuff. My dad has read Sandwich Desperados, and I think he's read at least one other book. He is the only member of my family that I know of who's actually sat down and read any of my books. So, yeah. Shall we?
Yeah,
Any
before you go on to the next one, I was just gonna say, just as a small note here, just like, if you are writing because you want people to read your story, then I think that you're writing for the wrong purpose. I think you should write because you want to tell your story. And obviously it would be great if people did read it.
But that's also a thing you should worry about, like 2 or 3 drafts down the line. Like, your first draft,
after you've written it,
you're writing your story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, there comes a point, and this is something that I focused more on, like in the early days of Camille's Harem, where I was like, hey, you don't have to publish your works. You really don't have to. And I think that's something that probably is good to revisit again. It's like, if you're writing, it doesn't mean you have to publish. People write for different reasons. If you want to publish, then you have to come at it with a slightly different mindset. But it always needs to come back to you, the fact that you love your story and that you want to tell it. Being able to tell it to other people is just another step in a different journey.
Yeah.
All right. I'm choosing another meme at random. It's so true. A writer. Someone who actively avoids writing while also planning the next 3 sequels to their unwritten book.
Don't out me like this.
Uh,
I don't think I've ever planned on anything I've written to be. Well, actually, no. There's one or two books I've thought of that I wanted to be multiple, like have multiple books in the series. But most of the time, it's just like the one idea that I'm focusing on. Right now, like with the work I'm currently on, what I want to do is keep it shorter, so keep it under 20,000 words, and then like trying to make that my writing goal at the moment is get that story done. So have it more as a novella length instead of a full length novel.
mm-hmm. And I'll say this: I have come to love writing novellas recently.
Which that's so wild to me because I never like whenever I think of Lars' stories, I always think of big, sprawling, long adventures, never like a novella. And
He
so
makes
I go ahead.
he makes some fun novellas. So like Notice Me Senpai and Tumble Teller, Sandwich Desperados, they're fun stories.
Mm-hmm. Those are some of my novellas.
Puss in Boots.
And Puss in Boots and the White Snake are also novellas. So yeah, I have found that it's fun to just do like a like because when I decide to commit to a long story, like I am locked in and I don't stop until it's done. And novellas make it easy to like have that chance to have that great creative burst and then rest a little bit sooner so I don't burn myself out.
Mm-hmm.
The difference is that you're such a prolific writer that your creative burst can actually follow you through to the end of a novella. Mine can rarely get me to the end of a chapter.
I'm not even close to that. So yeah.
Again, each person writes differently.
Yes. I fully believe that. Yes.
Now, but I definitely want to see one of your stories, Scott, one of these days, even if it's just in novella form. Like, I would love to read it because you are like the ideas guy. You're the guy that comes up with such cool ideas. I'm like, I would never have thought of that. And I'm like, I want to see it.
Mm-hmm.
Lars, you are also the ideas guy, but instead of well, not to say your ideas aren't unique, but your ideas are so convoluted and interconnected and twisted together. I'm like, how do you ever keep it all straight in your head?
Oh
That's the
boy.
ideas guy that you are.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, just wait until I start next year on Bleed Steam and Steel Part 2 and the
No.
Monarch Mercenaries, the sequel to Monarch Mercenaries, because actually, I with my current plan, I cannot yet introduce Gear Witch and Monarch Mercenaries, but I really want to start writing Gear Witch as soon as possible. Gear Witch gets introduced in one of the Monarch Mercenaries books, and I really want to do Gear Witch, and Gear Witch is related to Garden of the Gods, and oh my gosh, yeah, I've got way too many books that are interconnected.
Oh, that's fun. Next meme?
Yes, next meme. Let's see here. Another one at random. I'm coming down slightly lower the list. Let's try this one. Now's the perfect time to write your novel. Ah, yes, those ideal writing conditions of world-altering pandemic, economic collapse, general anxiety, and a daily barrage of horrifying news. Thank you, Lincoln Michael.
I mean, when the muse hits, the muse hits. Like, sometimes all you want to do is write, even though the world is absolutely insane. I've definitely found sometimes when I'm the most stressed in my life, I find myself creating more as an outlet.
Mm-hmm.
Like, as a way to get, like, away from everything. It's the escapism aspect of it, but, like, also I found that like creating something, accomplishing something, even if it's just like a third of a chapter, it really helps my mood, really helps me get out of all of like the doubt and anxiety that's happening.
Mm-hmm. Say I'll say in my personal life, I'm very connected to a lot of things that are going on, like in the nation, in the world, even though we do our best to keep our politics out of Camille's harem, because that's not what our channel's about at all. We care about fictional politics. In the real world, I am more engaged in those kinds of things. And to be frank, it's very exhausting. It gets very depressing. It gets very overwhelming. And it is the same for so many people. What I have found is that writing, and especially fiction, are a great way to have that escapism. And right now, as the world just continues on what crazy path it's going on, I find that, yeah, now is the perfect time for your novel. It's the perfect time for you to escape a little bit and give yourself a break, give yourself a rest. It's the perfect time to provide someone else with a unique, fun story that only you can bring. So, yeah, now is the perfect time. And if you want an example of that in like happening right now, that's where we get some of the really fantastic shows like The Amazing Digital Circus, Murder Drones, Has Been Hotel. They're absolutely products of right now. Things are happening in the world right now, but they are beautifully removed from that to tell interesting, insane stories.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's one of those things with like the whole escapism part of this. Why a lot of people love like fantasy and sci-fi in general is because they're able to take themselves out of like the real life, taking themselves out of the real world, and focus on problems and issues in a fictional world, and not have to think about the crazy stuff happening in our own world at the moment. Because like, yeah, there's a lot of crazy stuff, and that can be great inspiration for your stories going forward. But sometimes you just need to care more about Superman fighting fifth dimensional imp.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. Sometimes that's just what you need. And that's, and again, that's the beauty of escapism. So I mean, like it's a cheeky thing right here in this meme, but like there is actually like a good message behind it all, whether Lincoln meant it or not.
Yeah.
All right, let me grab up another meme.
New meme, new meme, new meme.
New meme, new meme. Let's see. Let's go with this one. I have no idea which one it was going to be. Writing is 10% typing and 90% thinking of a better way to describe someone walking across a room. Amen.
I do this. I do this so much. I get so in my head and worried that I'm like describing how somebody's saying something or how somebody's doing something, and I'm like, oh, but I had a character do just that same description of things earlier. Like I can't do that. I have to like reword that and change it out. And like I notice it when I'm reading stuff because they're like, oh, I can't call them their name anymore. I have to call them like the baker's son over and over and over again because I can't keep using their name every single time. And I'm like, sometimes that's a crutch, and it get used a little too much.
Yeah. And so like for instance, in my book Bleed Steam and Steel, with Asuka's first chapter, like the whole opening, the wet rice fields shook as the paladins dueled. The air trembled with the cracking of tramboon wood and the thunder of clashing metal and the cheering of the spectating farmers. No one in the area was going to miss a chance to see Lady Asuka of House Mikoto fight her family's longtime friend, Lord Heishi of House Abe. Like, that is that's a whole mouthful for to basically say what was originally the air trembled with the clash of paladins.
Mm-hmm.
and so sometimes yeah, sometimes we overthink it to go a little bit purple prosy, or go into a little bit, or to find different ways of describing our characters and the likes, but but we do it because we want our stories to be the best that they can be.
Yeah.
Sometimes we overthink it, sometimes we overdo it, but it's true.
Well, and it's a great bit of writing advice there, because that kind of thing is a sliding scale. Like you can go all the way to purple prose, or you can go to like super minimalistic, but like the way you handle that and where on the scale you are can really show a lot of things about like how the character's seeing things, and how like how fast the story's moving. If you're going real minimalistic and having things happen just boom 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 boom, like stuff is happening fast. If you go more in the purple prose, like you want the readers to really pay attention to what's going on in the story.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a tool you can use. Like it's not a bad thing. It's just sometimes you need to understand what you're doing there, and if you don't, your whole book could turn into purple prose.
Yeah. Well, and here's actually something to think about in terms of, like, let's actually take the situation of a character walks across the room. You can have a character walk across the room and do some, like, the question is, why is the character crossing the room? What is the intent? This can actually help you in a moment to convey a whole lot of information. So, for instance, if hey, ISO's here, woohoo! If you have a character, like, let's say, in a study of blood, because this is actually one of those instances where the Inquisitor Sari walks across a room and she makes sure that she's really emphasizing the swagger of her hips. She's doing it because she's trying to seduce another character. There's a purpose behind it. It's not just her crossing the room. She's trying to get she's trying to get that guy to start thinking with something other than his head. Another reason why a character might cross a room is like, I just can't with this person. You and your questions. Gets up, stalks across the room really angrily, grabs a book off the shelf, and is like, read this, and just chucks a book at the other character. Like, you can convey a lot about intent, about who this character is, by how they cross the room.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's a way to, like, and it's something I'm a little bit weaker on, because I really like to let a lot of dialogue explain what's happening in the story instead of like character action. And I feel like if I had more character action, had actual movement in the story, it would be a little bit more dynamic as the story goes.
Mm-hmm.
So I do. Oh, sorry. I do have to say, having a story that's entirely dialogue, because I've got the one story I haven't touched in a while, but I've got the one story I really enjoyed writing for a while, where it has a text chat group between a bunch of the characters, and just having that chat like go down for a couple of pages is very entertaining to like actually write out.
Mm-hmm. I was just going to say, Commoncraft brought up an interesting little conundrum right here of not being able to mention the main name of the name of their main character. It's because he will use a fake name for the first half of the story. He doesn't know what it is just yet in the prologue, and I'm using a technique where the character names can be used. I'm going to say digitally is probably digitally before the narrator can use it as the narration. Narrator's not omniscient. I use a form of third-person limited narration. The narration is partially limited to what the characters know, and I like that writing technique actually.
Mm-hmm.
That works especially well for Wheel of Time. Diegetically. Wow, I actually do not know that word.
Is it diegetically?
Diegetically. There we are. Thank you. You've corrected my horrible mispronunciation.
I could be very far off, but I think that's the word.
Diegetically, meaning check you, Merriam-Webster.
Interesting word. Okay, I did not know that.
One of the primary qualities of those texts we understand as fiction is that they generate a diegetic order that has an astonishing independence from its text. So, of or relating to diegesis.
So existing or occurring within the world of a narrative rather than as something external to that world. Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
We learn something new every day. Woo!
Yeah. All right, new meme.
New meme.
New meme. Let's see here. I'm going to choose this one. I mean, we kind of already touched on this, but yeah, first draft, final draft. Okay.
Honestly, I get so scared of the editing process that I write the first draft. I'm like, okay, this is just the first draft. I'm gonna come back to it and edit it. Nope. It's the finally written draft.
That's a great way of putting it.
It's the most recently done draft. It's final in that it's actually put on the page.
Yeah, it's final. It's the finally written draft. I love that though. It's the finally written draft. So this though just comes back around to your first draft isn't perfect. It will always need some work. Editing is daunting. I hate the editing process. I hate it, but it's important. And the reason why here's I'm going to give a nuanced take though right here. So when I was writing up a short story a day for Cruisy-tober last month, doing a little short fiction each day related to the ship Cruisy from Deltarune, I almost never edited anything before I posted it because I just didn't have the time. I was working on other things at the same time, and this was just a fun way to just get more creativity out there, really kind of dust the rust off of some of my gears, and get me back onto writing on a schedule. And so I didn't really care how good it was. It was just something that I had to do. And so in that case, sometimes the first draft is totally fine because it just comes down to, why are you writing this? Are you writing this because I just want to get the story out of my head? If that's the case, that's absolutely fine. But when you want to share that story, let's say print it, publish it, or if let's say you're making a show that people are going to pay money to make, you probably want to refine that first draft into a second, a third, a fourth, maybe a fifth draft in order to make it the best it can be, because no matter how beautiful that first draft is, it's not perfect. And that is one of my biggest contentions, aside from all the lore breaking, with Rings of Power. The problem is that Rings of Power, if the writers had spent more time refining the scripts and the characters, it wouldn't be a bad show. It would be a bad Tolkien adaptation, but it could actually be a good show. And that's what's so frustrating. I'm like, I see the greatness, but you squander it because this is a first draft. Gah!
All right, we have time for one more meme.
Yeah, because you'll have to get off here real soon. Comic Craft says, for example, the song in the Temple of Deltarune Chapter 4 is diegetic, as the Miss Mizzles can be seen as a chorus, and there is an Easter egg of Ralsei singing in the background song. Cool. All right, let's pull up another meme, and then unfortunately Scott will have to leave us, and then we'll probably start wrapping up from there, just because Nathan's got stuff to do. Scott's got to get ready for work tomorrow. And I got to get back to writing. Hey! Hey,
Lars was
speaking
talking
of
about that earlier.
editing, yeah. I did not know that this would be the one.
Oh, that poor dog
Oh,
looks like a wreck.
that's a little gremlin dog. This poor dog. Writers, after spending 100 hours editing just to find another typo, it is so true. Oh,
The
I
typos never end.
They don't.
never end. This is why, if you can get your hands on an editor, they will be worth their weight in gold, because Microsoft Word does not catch a lot of the problems. The AI devices also don't also many times the AI devices that you might use to help you out with editing will misunderstand your choice in grammar. Like if you've got characters speaking like how people normally would, it's never grammatically correct. And so it'll always be like, you need to fix your dialogue, you need to fix your dialogue. And then you end up making all your characters sound the same. Or you try to get creative with a word, and it's like, that's the wrong word to use. Meanwhile, there's a bunch of commas where they don't belong, or you misspelled the word the. And it misses that.
Yeah, editors are invaluable.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I've ever used an editor, but yes.
Our friend Danielle is a fantastic editor.
Mm-hmm.
Say, I really have to credit her for one of the main reasons why Bleed Steam and Steel reads as well as it does. Having someone who reads a lot and who can edit a story, look over that book and really like not just simply fix things, but question me why I did certain things, was really helpful.
Oh, hey, the Bulgarian series. I love the Bulgarian series. ISO, you got taste.
I cracked up at the point where the writer accidentally called Mr. Wolf Mistress Wolf.
Yeah, I remember that. It's hilarious. Oh, I mean, even it's amazing what will get through like an actual editor and like be released at like the professional level, like thrown into like released at Barnes and Noble, and people push that book, like the monthly picks or whatever that they use. Like you sit down and read it, there's a good chance you'll find one or two. And, like
Mm-hmm.
even the professional editors will miss that kind of stuff.
Well,
Well, I remember Brandon Sanderson talking about one of his books. I think it was The Wave Kings, having a pretty big typo in like the first page or something.
yeah. Yep. It happens. And one of the crazy things is that it can be so hard to catch it because our brains instantly correct things that we see are wrong. And
Mm-hmm.
unless you can stop yourself and really focus on the problem right then and there to fix it, your brain could just very easily subconsciously fix that word, fix that mistake, and you slide on and you don't realize that you just saw something off.
It
And
doesn't help that I have dyslexia, and so that sensation is about 10 times stronger in me.
oh yeah, yep. Say that we all have our editing woes.
Mm-hmm.
So again, if you find yourself stuck in editing hell or you don't want to do it, like Nate, believe you me, we get it. We get it. no ju- no judging here. I think that for me, where I get upset when I see grammar and spelling mistakes in a printed book is when it becomes very apparent that there's a lot of them. And so then I
Like
have to
50
ask,
Shades of Grey.
yeah, like 50 Shades of Grey. So at which point I have to say, okay, was this self-published? If it's self-published, I personally will give it more grace because I'm like, I get it. I'm there. I'm right there with you, and it happens. I am willing to pass by that. If it's professionally printed, like 50 Shades of Grey, I'm like, there is no excuse for this. You should have caught it. And when you guys were talking when you guys were bringing up earlier how sometimes the flaws of a book bring its charm, maybe that's one of the few things that gets people through 50 Shades of Grey is the fact that it's so horribly written that it becomes funny rather than just horrifying because it's a horrible story.
Yeah, absolutely. But to circle around to, I think our first meme, was it? Maybe it was our second meme, where we were talking about like the failures of a novel is what they live, or not the failures, the faults, the issues, the inside of a book is what gives it personality. On that same, kind of wavelength, it's the book's like mistakes and issues and the story's mistakes and issues. Like every book has them. And trying to remove them will remove the personality out of your book. But what bothers some people don't bother others. And vice versa, and so it's like when I read something like Twilight, I notice all of the mistakes and all of the plot holes and all of those different things, but to some people they maybe notice them and it doesn't bother them. It bothers me, but just because it doesn't bother them doesn't mean that that those faults aren't there. And so it just comes down to like, let your book have flaws, let it have mistakes, get it out there, and some people will overlook those mistakes and other people won't. And that's just the nature of being human and having different opinions and different tastes and different issues that people notice.
I think that's actually a really good point. That's a really good point to be made, Nate. That there's some people who just won't, and people who begin to attack a story like right off the bat for its grammar issues, like it makes you wonder, like, are you actually enjoying this? Are you using this as a reasoning to dislike a story already, which is subjective, but your opinions are still yours, and they're definitely valid to you and to other people. So as an author, our most important duty is not immediately to please potential readers. Our duty is to write the best story that we can to the best of our ability because we love that story. And if you want to share with other people, then hopefully all that hard work you've put into it reaches your potential readers and that they reciprocate that love and attention. If they don't, yeah, that hurts, but kind of screw that. Move on.
Yeah, well said.
All right, Scott, I know that you've got work. You've got to get ready for an early day tomorrow. So if you want to give your final thoughts and some words, by all means.
I guess final thought is just like, write for the fun of it. Just write because you enjoy writing, and just do it at your own pace. That's my biggest recommendation. Like, so what if you write slower than Lars does? You don't have to. As long as you're writing. But that's the caveat. You need to be actually trying to write.
Don't out me like this.
I think there is a meme on the list. It's just like there's a couple of memes on that list. It's just like different characters saying you should be writing.
Yeah,
and I'm like, yeah, I know you're pointing at me. I should be writing.
Yep.
All right, I better get off though. Thank you, everybody. Hope you have a good night.
Thank you, Scott.
We'll chat later, I think.
Yeah, I hope you have a great night. Sleep well.
You too. Okini.
And then there was two.
And then
I'm
there was-
probably going to head off here pretty soon too. So I'll give my final thoughts. I thanks for having me on as always. And I like this because it was like writing is supposed to be fun. And I think sometimes not that it's usually stressful, but at times we can feel stressed and pressured into finishing our novels or working on our books, and it's meant to be something that is enjoyed. Now, if you are a professional and you're getting paid to write and that is where your livelihood lives, then, be stressed about writing and getting to your writing goals. But at the end of the day, writing is an adventure and it's more fun with friends.
Amen.
And it's more fun with memes.
That's true. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that, Nate. I agree. Unless you are writing because you are this is your bread and butter. This is how you make a living. And even then, still, it should be because you love your stories. You're having fun. You're bringing joy to yourself and to other people. Like that's really what it is at its heart. If storytelling wasn't fun for both storyteller and for the audience, we would have given up on it millennia ago. So don't forget that. If you are like me and you're trying to break into the industry, then yeah, you do have work that you have to put in. But if it's not fun, you lose your love for it so fast. Yeah, you don't want to get there.
Yeah. Oh, there are children screaming outside.
Oh, wow. I can't hear them. I can't hear them through your microphone at the moment.
Well, that's good. Well, and then the last thing I was going to say, just kind of backpedaling a little bit to kind of what we were talking about with the with like the flaws inside of stories. Just that my one last thought that kind of we kind of stepped away from, but one last thought I just wanted to say is like the death of enjoyment is criticism, and it's okay to be a little bit critical, but don't forget to enjoy yourself along the way as well. When it comes to reading, when it comes to writing, like don't forget to enjoy what you're doing, because if you're being overly critical, it's very easy to not have fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's all I gotta say on that.
Now that is that's another great point, Nate. If you don't mind me actually taking that and running with it a little bit, this is actually one of the reasons why I fell out of love with a lot of YouTube pundits that I used to follow. I used to be way more informed about what was happening in Hollywood. But the thing is that so much of it just became negative. People just always continuously ranting and ratting on just all of these other creatives. And in many cases, it was rightfully so. But it got to a point where I was like, do you guys actually care about anything anymore? And especially when people start saying that they just couldn't enjoy Star Wars anymore. And I'm like, what? What the heck? Like, you have allowed your hatred of Disney Star Wars to ruin your ability to enjoy old Star Wars. And thankfully, I'm not at that point, and I never want to get to that point of negativity where I cease to enjoy other good works because there's this other thing that I don't like. We don't need that.
Yeah,
negativity.
absolutely. And I'm the same way. I've kind of stepped away from a lot of critical like YouTubers and reviewers, just because it's like it's obviously, if there are issues, those issues need to be pointed out. But I often feel like people take the issues and that becomes the only thing that they care about. It's very much, it reminds me of the critic from Ratatouille. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's like these people have no like light in their life anymore because they're just so critical. You have to remember to have fun with it too.
Yeah. And I love how Eton, the Grim Eater, like how he finds that spark again at the end, and like you get his review is I think one of the most beautiful monologues in Disney or in Pixar history, where you have that beautiful, almost like, actually it's not just almost, it is a meta reflection on the creative process, where it's like I understand now what Gusteau meant, that not everyone will be a great cook, but anyone can cook. And if you apply that to writing, I get what you mean. Not everyone's going to be a great writer, but that doesn't mean that any one person can't write. And that you will maybe sometimes find a beautiful story in places or in people that you least expect it. And so you shouldn't just throw something out just because it doesn't meet your immediate expectations of what you think a masterpiece is or should be. So
That is well said.
There's actually there's a couple things that that I did want to quickly address that were here in the chat. Like Omega, sorry for coming in late. Hey, Omega, that's totally fine. I'll post a link as soon as I can. Hope you like Dino Transformation. I love dinos transforming. That goes all the way back to my love of something like Beast Wars. And it says I just got a new computer monitor, so I can write easier now. My writing schedule should be fixed soon. And for NaNoWriMo, I'm working on the Mage. That's awesome. And I know there's a lot of people who get really iffy about using the term or the phrase NaNoWriMo, just because of what's happened with the organization. But I still love the idea of dedicating a month to, I'm going to try to crank out a whole story. And I mean, that's what I'm doing this year. This November is I'm trying to crank out the entire first draft for Temple Teller Act 2. So that's
my
awesome.
goal for NaNoWriMo is just to write at least once a week. And so far, not doing so great.
You still have a little bit of time this week.
That's true. That's true. It's hard it's hard to find time when you got a little one that basically takes up all your free time, and then as soon as he goes to bed, you're like, I have time to do stuff I want to do.
Yeah,
and then instantly fall asleep.
No, I mean, I'm not a dad, but I've been an uncle many times over, an uncle who's helped out a whole lot. So like, I've not been baptized into the same fire that you have, but I know what that's like to a degree, and you have my full empathy.
Yeah. Well, it is one of the most fulfilling things ever, but it's one of the most exhausting things I've ever done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anywho, enough about fatherhood. Back to writing.
Back to writing. I before I want to sign off, I do actually want to just bring up a few more memes, just because I think this has been a whole lot of fun, and we should definitely try something like this again, especially because we still have so many memes.
I was gonna say, do you have plans for next week's live stream already?
I don't yet have plans for next week's live stream.
If my schedule is open, I have not looked at next week, but I would love to join you again.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we could maybe look through more memes, because I know we have a ton more.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we got so many more, and there's so many more other great memes on out there. It would be fun to continue this. And then definitely at some point also like have like another like good solid writing lesson. Though I think doing this sometimes is just a fun way of just getting those writers' insights and just having it be a little bit of fun. Like a solid lesson is a good thing, but other times you just kind of need that personal experience.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, I just have to say this for this particular meme, when you're the author and even you didn't see the plot twist coming, I get that. Oh my gosh. So let's see here. For let's see here. Which story do I want? Because because this kind of thing has actually happened to me a couple of times. But let's see here.
I've definitely never had it happen while writing, but while sitting there thinking about where like I want to take the story, there's been one or two times where like I've had that epiphany and being like, "Oh, that's a great idea."
Yeah. So I'll come back around to Bleed, Steam, and Steel. Um, and this was not planned in the beginning. This was a moment where I was garden writing, where I'm like, I'm just going to press on ahead and just hope that this somehow works. For Bleed, Steam, and Steel, when Asuka has to report to the Emperor because after critically injuring one of her rivals in a duel, that guy's family tries to start a clan war. And so, in order to prevent the clan war, the Emperor is asked to step in, and the Emperor intends to strip Asuka's family of their holdings through an arranged marriage, and it will destroy her. Everything that she's been working for, it all is about to go out the window. And I was like, okay, how is this going to work? How is this going to work? How is this going to work? And as I was writing up into that point, there were a couple of things that then all started coming together. It was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing! I can actually use this. Was how one of the rivals that she had fought, I at the beginning of the book, I wanted it to kind of end where it's like maybe they could be friends in the future. So at least like it ends honorably, amicably. And so that character, I could then reintroduce her to then provide to provide some insights. So I was like, okay, ooh, this is good. This is good. Oh, wait, I remember like earlier on, I said that the mom was over at the palace being taken care of because that's where the best physicians were. Asuka's mom is present. Asuka's mom would be close to court, which means that she knows things that would be helpful to Asuka. And so then by bringing these two characters together, I was then able to capitalize on an idea that I'd come across in one of my classes as an undergrad about how a Japanese emperor had tried to hide the fact that he had a male lover, but was still like writing love poetry to him, and which is how historians hundreds of years later realized, like, oh, you had a male lover, gotcha. And I was like, well, why? And I'm like, why would that be dangerous to an emperor back in the day? Well, because kings are expected to provide heirs in order to continue the dynasty. If the dynasty falls apart, everyone who has a vested interest in the power of that dynasty will lose their power, which is why knights and lords do their best to preserve the lineage of the king. So that way they can continue to have their power, because maybe the next king from a different family might not like them and strip them of all their stuff. And so I was like, wait a second. Oh, so I could use this thing from history that I'd learned, along with two characters I'd introduced earlier, to bring together a plot that Asuka then exposes in one of the chapters, that the emperor has a secret male lover. And immediately all of these noble families are all like, we need to ruin this affair. And so because she exposes it in court, it creates this immediate fuss, and she's then able to leverage that chaos in the moment to get the emperor to give her a different sentence. And in that case, then she's able to choose exile as her punishment for injuring the son of another noble family in a duel, which then leads the way for the rest of her story. And that was something that was not immediately planned while I was writing Bleed, Steam, and Steel. It was something that came to me as I was writing. Hey, wow, ancient gossip. Is it just me, or gossip basically a human universal constant? It is. I love spontaneous plot twists. I was writing a moment where the main character was trying to prevent a disaster, and I was contemplating what the consequences of this should be so that it had meaning. The options where he fails and people die, or he succeeds with a sacrifice. But then I would say, with a third option, this option flows with the lore and sets up more of the story later in. It was he succeeds, but success catches the attention of the main bad guy. Not as dramatic or immediately consequential. And I like that. I like that option there, ISO. I think it's a good one. Good one in many situations for a story, actually. Because sometimes the worst consequences aren't the ones that you would ever foresee coming. And let's see here. I'm going to do one more, and then we'll wrap up the evening. Let's see here. I'm going to take this meme. Okay. Me, when I am the writer who lets the characters suffer. Everyone's miserable. I'm so happy. Me as the reader of a writer who lets the characters suffer. Crying. Okay. So here's actually something that I will say as an author who has made plenty of his characters suffer. I actually personally don't like making most of my characters suffer. There are some characters like Gary in The Legend of the Ten Lords. I love tormenting Gary because that guy is the worst. He is an awful character. He might be one of
He deserves it.
He deserves it. He might be one of the most despicable villains I have ever written. Oh my gosh. So I love making him suffer. But the object, the sad object of Gary's perverse affection, Jessica, I actually really hate putting her through everything I put her through. But the reason why I did it was because I didn't want to simply have a girl who goes through a damsel in distress arc, but rather she is someone who tries to escape her captivity throughout the series. But her choices and how she tries to escape have dire consequences and very hard-learned lessons, which transform her as a person. Which means then, because I intend for Ben and Jessica to end up as a couple later on in the series, how then can I help these two characters to actually genuinely fall in love? Which means that I have to get more creative and become hopefully more interesting and in a way more real with their romance. And so by making characters suffer, as painful as it can be sometimes, what it means is that it opens up opportunities that you otherwise wouldn't have, that allows you to explore characters further, expand the world, expand their character arcs, and set up what you hope will be scenes and moments that have genuine earned payoff. That's what the suffering of the characters means. If you're just torturing your characters because you like torturing them, I actually question if your story is really doing what it needs to do. Because
that's how I felt a lot about Game of Thrones. Like, a lot of the characters are just tortured to be tortured, but I felt like it gave no chance for character growth and development.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Having read A Song of Ice and Fire, I genuinely question why I should care about any of these characters. The only character I really care about is Bran. And it's because Bran is meant to be the hero. You know, if you are paying attention to the first book of Game of Thrones, you know by the end of the first book that Bran is supposed to save the Seven Kingdoms. Like, that's indisputable. Anyone who thought that Bran wasn't the main character was not paying attention. George R. R. Martin telegraphed it. Since that's the case that you know that Bran's the main character in all of this, you then have to ask yourself, why are the other characters put through what they're put through? What are they meant to learn? Who are they supposed to become? And by the end of the 5th book, it's just like, what? What's going on here, George? None of this matters. None of what you're putting your characters through matters. You just tortured them to giggle, to set up weird sex scenes and stuff like that. By the end of the 5th book, the only characters who have really progressed anywhere are Bran, Stannis. Stannis Baratheon is amazing. The show did him dirty. Stannis Baratheon is cool, and he's barely in the book. The Tarly uncle, the Black Fish, is really cool. He's hardly in it. He's also going somewhere, maybe. And Tyrion, because Tyrion is meant to be the second main character of the entire series. And it's easy to mistake him as the main character because of how much George focuses on him in order to torture that poor guy. But Tyrion, you can see how Tyrion is growing. Tyrion is maybe the only character who you can genuinely say has real character growth throughout the series. Whereas Bran is more of an archetype. More of an archetype rather than a living, breathing character, which does the poor kid such a disservice. Oh, yeah. Having actually read the books.
I was going to say, the joke's on you because these characters aren't going anywhere because they'll never finish the series.
Yeah, he'll never finish the series. He won't. He actively won't. And the reason why, if any of you haven't heard my rant on this, the reason why George R. R. Martin will never finish the series is because the show ended with the ending. Man, actually, let me amend this. It did not end with the ending that George has in mind for the series, but it ended with the characters on the throne who were meant to be there. Bran will be the king. That is a given. That is a given by the end of the 1st book. He is meant to be the king. And by the end of the 1st book, it is a given that Tyrion will be the hand of the king. That, like, he telegraphs it so dang hard. And people were so angry that Bran ended up on the throne that George is like, but that's my whole story. Oh, because Jon Snow was never meant to get on the throne. We don't even know if Jon Snow is ever meant to come back to life after the end of the 5th book, in all honesty. And in fact, it's getting set up for, guess what? I know this is insanely creepy, but Daenerys Targaryen is meant to end up in a relationship with Bran. She is meant to marry Bran because Bran will take over her dragons. That was set up by the 2nd book, actually. That's how things are going to turn out. And so the ending as it actually was meant to be written, as far as the books set it up, is that Bran will marry Daenerys Targaryen, take the throne, and so you will have an 11-year-old boy married to a 14-year-old girl ruling Westeros as it descends into a chaotic winter where most of the world is going to die, and Tyrion, as the hand of the king, will just barely help to make sure that Westeros survives the 10 years of winter after they defeat the Night King. There you have it. And the thing is that the show botched that ending, but they still put onto the throne who was meant to be on the throne. And Tyrion ends up as the hand of the king. People dislike that ending. George R. R. Martin hates criticism. He runs from it. If you've ever seen interviews with him, the moment that anyone gets critical, this man caves. He doesn't want to talk about it. He doesn't want to address it. And in a way, it kind of makes sense, because if you know his career up till the point where he became famous with the Game of Thrones series, he had already gone through so much rejection. He was all of his Hollywood credits that he has to his name are because friends got him a job. He never finished a series. He was more known for his magazine writing rather than his books because people didn't read his books, or people didn't like his books, or people didn't like his magazine articles. George R. R. Martin is a man who has persevered despite all the criticism that he's gotten, but the way that he has survived for so long is by dodging the criticism rather than ever taking it or addressing it. And so you can see that. And the moment that he became famous, he could not escape the criticism. The show ended the way that it did. It was not a good ending. And he took that as an indictment of himself. And that's why he will never finish it. Because he feels put on the spot. He feels shamed by the show. He's more than happy to do Dunk and Egg. He's more than happy to do House of the Dragon. Because he loves the world of Westeros and Easteros. But he has no desire to finish the core story because he is terrified of how people will receive it. So, there you go. There's my rant.
Good rant.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, we should probably get wrapped up.
Yeah, we're great. Yeah, we're gonna wrap it up there. So a couple of things before we sign off. Some fun news here. I will be a featured author at the Tucson Festival of Books next year.
Huzzah!
Yeah.
I will also be at the Tucson Festival of Books.
Yay!
I try and go every year with my wife and son. So, well, last year I didn't have a son, but now I do, and that's the goal of ours, is to go down every time.
Yep, I will be there on Pi Day, so Saturday the 14th of March, right after Friday the 13th. So
not ominous at all.
Yeah, not ominous at all. But yeah, I'll be over at the Child's Pavilion, so I won't be in the main thoroughfare. And it makes sense because the only book that I could submit for the festival was one of the kids' books I've written, The White Snake. So I'll get to sell The White Snake, Puss in Boots and the Dark Riddles, and Notice Me Senpai at the Child's Pavilion. And yeah, it should be that should be fun. And let's see here. My mind just blanked on other things. So I'll be if any of you can find it in your heart and in your budget to make it down to Tucson or up to Tucson in March of next year, I'd absolutely love to see you there. If not, I get it, because we have a pretty global audience. People live all over the place, so being able to make it might be a little bit difficult, but yeah, I'll have more out about that. And I'm going to be getting back to actually working on a couple of new videos and working on Temple Teller Act 2 tonight. Woohoo! And Nate's got a party to get ready for.
Sure do.
I'm a little sad I couldn't make it up this year. But Nate and Jazz throw amazing over the garden wall parties.
That's right. This year is not as intense because it's been so busy. Mm-hmm. But we're excited. We're doing it a little earlier in the day this year. So there's going to be less time tomorrow to get stuff ready. So I'm trying to get as much of it done tonight as I can.
Yeah, very understandable. And I was actually thinking about this after watching the Overly Sarcastic Productions detailed diatribe on Over the Garden Wall. But sometime in the future, like, we as a harem need to also just have our own detailed diatribe discussion of Over the Garden Wall, because the thing is this: a lot of people definitely talk about the show and from so many beautiful angles of like music, folklore, its connection to other to other stories, or just its dark themes. But I honestly haven't heard many people from a writer's perspective talk about how the writing for the show is just so dang good and why it's so good. And I think it's a perspective that we could bring at some future point. So
That sounds like a fun time.
oh yeah. Oh, something to plan for in the future. But for now, that's all that we've got for you guys tonight. Thank you so much for joining us on this fun little romp through writing memes. I think we'll do some more of this next week if we have the opportunity. And yeah. So until then, please keep an eye out for all of our other videos. And if my incessant talk about some of my books tonight has piqued your interest, then please check them out. Links for them are in the description below. Otherwise, again, thank you so much for joining us on this incredible adventure that we call writing. And until the next video, y'all, choose.
Later, skaters. Or should I say later, haters?